right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Antler and FeatherCo podcast, the podcast for new and adult onset hunters. My name's Vince, and I'm going to be your host. And on this show, I, a newer, inexperienced hunter, bring people on who know a whole hell of a lot more about whitetail hunting, turkey hunting, archery, conservation, you name it, all the stuff we love to learn about. I bring them on the show, and as I ask them questions and learn new things, I just want to pass that info right along to you guys. So on the show this week, we are going to talk about 3D archery, how that relates to hunting for our guests. We're going to talk about getting our kids into the woods, get a bow in their hand, get them hunting early and why that's important. We're also going to talk about videography a little bit because I think our guest makes some pretty cool looking content. I might steal some ideas from him. I'm not going to tell him that, but we're going to see what he's got going on with that. And then I'm sure we're going to talk about turkey hunting because it's going to be here before we know it, and I'm super excited about it. So before we get going too far in, I want to say thank you to everybody who has checked out antler&FeatherCo.com. Thank you guys for checking it out, for buying the apparel, for supporting the company and the podcast. I appreciate it. It's just been awesome. So thank you guys so much for that. I also want to share a couple friends of the show with you guys real quick. For starters, Buzzard Roost Saddles. It's the best saddle your butt will ever sit in. I promise you, check them out. They're American made. It is just a great quality saddle. It is very comfortable. I loved using mine last year. If you guys want to get one for yourself, use code AAFP10 on their website. That's going to get you 10% off your very own Buzzard Roost saddle. Now, moving on to the official coffee of the podcast, Our Grounds Coffee Co. My favorite coffee from them is Roosevelt, but they got Color Phase coming out soon. I think that's going to be a light roast, so that might kick Roosevelt into number 2. Number 3 is Muley Mayhem. Now, don't get confused. They are all very, very, very good coffee, no matter what you like, whether it's light to dark. He's got it covered. They're all great. Use code all caps AFCO. That's going to get you 15% off your coffee order. And guys, finally, Spartan Forge. It is just the best mapping deer movement prediction app you're going to find out there. Bill is adding to it all the time. It already blows all the rest of the apps out of the water, but he keeps adding to it, keeps making it better. Try it out this year for turkey season. You're going to love it. You can try it for free. When you want to step up to the full subscription, use code all caps AFCO on their website. That's going to get you 20% off your full subscription to Spartan Forge. So as promised this week, we're going to discuss things like 3D archery, why and how that relates to hunting. For our guest, I'm pretty sure he's chasing speed goats, so 3D archery can come in real handy when you're shooting distance. We're also going to talk about getting our kids in the woods. I think that's super important. You want to get them in there early, and how can we make it fun for them so that they actually enjoy it and look forward to it versus just having to tag along with dad. I know my son loves shooting his bow. He loves the idea of hunting. We're going to talk about just different ways that we can get our kids involved and get them loving it as much as we do. We're also going to talk about videography a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, our guest makes some really cool looking content. I want to ask him some questions on, not his secrets, but how does he do it? How did he learn? How did he get started? Maybe if any of you guys want to dive into content creation or just make your stuff better, hopefully this can give you some new ideas or different perspectives that you can employ with your own content. And then finally, I'm sure at some point we're going to talk turkey hunting. I'm a turkey hunting freak. I love it. It's way better than whitetail hunting, although whitetail hunting is really, really great. I love turkey hunting even more. I've already got all my stuff out. I've been hitting the mouth calls and the glass calls, annoying my family and my neighbors already. This year, I'm going to be going from a Nightingale Run and Gun 100 chest pack back to an actual vest. It's going to be the Nightingale Run and Gun 200 vest. The reason I did that is because with the chest pack, I loved it. Everything was right there. There was minimal movement to get to stuff. But the binoculars thing, I couldn't figure out where to put them, where they were comfortable, but they were still accessible with the least amount of movement. So I'm going back to a vest. The Run and Gun 200 is great, just because it's tight to your body. It's very low profile, but it carries everything and more. There's a built-in backpack on the back. It's got a ton of great features. So if you're looking for a new vest, I don't partner with them at all, but check it out because I really like it. It's well built. I'm really excited to get that thing into the woods this year. April cannot come soon enough, But with all that said, let's get into the show. I've talked way too much already. So, all right, guys. So this week our guest is Ben Klusmann from SODAK Horizon. Ben, how are you doing today, man?
Good, man. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. And I'm looking forward to some good conversation and can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. If I know one thing, I can take a conversation anywhere. So we should be good. So I've seen some videos of you out in the snow shooting your bow. I'm proud of you for being a man, embracing the cold and getting out there. How was do you deer hunt and stuff? How has your season been going?
I had kind of a failure of a season in a lot of aspects, but a lot of success too. But our season ended December 31st, so I haven't been hunting for almost a month now, and I'm feeling it. But yeah, we do whitetail, we do mule deer, and then I do antelope up here. Those are all species that we can get pretty much over the counter tags for. So that's what my season generally consists of. I sometimes pick up an extra tag here and there, but that's generally what I'm after most years.
That's awesome. So you're hunting the game that requires like really good archery skills. Like like I talked ahead of time of the show. You're not making 15-yard chip shots out of a tree. You're chasing down, probably shooting at range. Those real high difficulty shots. Man, that sounds like so much fun. But all right, man, I'm going to say a quick prayer because I got a lot of things that I want to talk to you about and get right into it. So Lord Jesus, I thank you for another day on earth. I thank you for, like I said last week, I thank you for just allowing me to wake up and breathe your air, to see your sunlight, to enjoy your creation. I thank you for your sacrifice on the cross in my place. Without that, this world would be just absolutely lost. It would be absolutely just, there would be no hope. And you selflessly came down, you took our nails, you took our cross, just simply because you love us. I thank you for that, because I want to use this podcast, first, just to glorify you. I want this to be a tool for you to right now reach as many people as you can. And then I also thank you for Ben. I thank you that he is willing to come on here and spend time with me. We ask that you'd be with us during this conversation, that we could have a great conversation, learn some things, have some laughs. And again, ultimately through this podcast, for you to be glorified. Lord, I ask all this in your great name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so for anyone who follows you currently or those who don't, you're very passionate about archery. So just to get it started, tell us, how did you get into hunting and archery and all that stuff, and why do you still love doing it to this day?
So archery was one of those things. So my dad grew up rifle hunting. He was the guy that would go out opening morning, fill his tag, and then him and all his buddies, and then he'd come back and he'd show me the deer. And I never got to go because I was too young, and rifle season was always so cold. And so I got to live through hunting shows. We used to watch young Michael Waddell and the Bone Collectors and Ted Nugent, all the good ones, Jim Zumbo, all those guys that used to be on the Outdoor Channel, and that was what I lived for. Well, I remember one day Michael Waddell went archery elk hunting, and I remember looking at my dad going, "You can kill an elk with a bow?" And he goes, "Well, we're about to find out." Sure. And so after that episode, I went, "Dad, I want to start bow hunting. What do I have to do?" And mind you, I'm like 7, 8 years old. I'm not even legal age to hunt yet in South Dakota. And he goes, "Well, I don't know where we would start at, but I got an old recurve in the basement from my Boy Scout days if you want to give it a shot." And immediately I was like, "Absolutely, get it out right now. Like, let's play with it." So we got it out and we took it to Shields and got it all kind of revamped, set it up so we could shoot it, and we started shooting. We started shooting at 10 yards with 3 square bales stacked on top of each other, and we were stoked if we hit the bales. It was a good feeling to hit the bales. And then we switched to a paper plate. And once we got 5 arrows in a paper plate, then we went to a pie plate. And once we got 5 arrows in the pie plate, then we went back to 20 yards. And we did that till I think we got back to 30 or 25 or 30 yards, and we were shooting pretty good. And so my dad said, "We'll go out. You can spend your money on a bow when you kill something. You have to shoot something before we do that with the recurve." And so I was like, "Okay, perfect." So I started doing rabbit runs around the neighborhood. I would go around to little old ladies that that needed rabbits killed for their gardens, and I'd shoot rabbits. And so the first rabbit I ever shot, I shot right in the middle of, like, right in the front yard of our house, in the middle of Main Street, in the middle of a small town. And I ran back to get my dad, and I said, "Dad, I just shot a rabbit." And he goes, "No, you didn't." I said, "Yeah, I did. It stuck to the ground. Like, come look at it." So he comes all the way up there, and he goes, "By golly, you shot a rabbit." And the next day we went and got a bow at the bow shop. So
That's awesome.
that was, I think I started in 2004, 2005, and I got my first deer killed in 2006. And then after that, it's just been anything and everything. What can we do? Let's go. So
That's awesome. That's one of the better, like, start out stories I've heard.
it was just crazy because I don't even know how old I was. Like, I keep asking my mom, and she's like, "I don't know. You just killed your first deer in 2006." But I can remember, like, getting home from school, dropping all my stuff inside, and then going out to the backyard, not even checking in with anybody. And then, mom and dad come and try to find me, and it's dinner time, and I'm shooting in the backyard. I just remember being obsessed with it as soon as I picked up a bow. So it hasn't gone away yet.
That's awesome. And I doubt it ever will. Or if anything, as I go on and I start pushing the limits of what I can do, it is one of those things where it's one of those magical things where it can be so frustrating, but you love every second of it. There's other things where it gets frustrating and you're like, "This sucks. I'm done. This was a stupid idea. I should have never done it." Archery is not like that. Archery is like, "I'm frustrated. I'm mad. Here's $3,000 more towards the towards the cause." And just for a note, I also love that as a kid, most kids run around to all the little old ladies' house and they say, "Hey, can I mow your lawn? Can I rake your leaves?" You are offering rabbit management at a young age. I think that's awesome.
Well, I did that too. That's how I got my client base. The deal was I'd give you a cheaper price if I could shoot rabbits out of your yard. So,
man, well, you had a good business model going, apparently. Well, hey, so you kind of talked about seeing Michael Waddell shoot that elk, and you did mention what species you hunt, but let's dive a little further into that. From where I'm at in Iowa, we're really all we're hunting is whitetail and turkey. We have small game and waterfowl, things like that. But in terms of, like, what I would consider like a big game animal, it's deer and turkey. If we want to hunt mule deer or elk or anything like that, we have to come out by you guys. So does getting into, say, mule deer hunting, speed goat hunting, antelope for those who don't know what speed goats are, does that kind of just organically happen like a kid growing up whitetail hunting would in Iowa?
So I'm probably one of the weirder bow archery guys because I didn't actually start really focusing on the archery portion or anything other than whitetail till 2018. That's kind of when I dove into the other side of things. So
Gotcha.
From that on, it was I'd go to the archery shop, drop my bow off, say, "Hey, I need it tuned up or whatever. I need everything put on it, and then I need arrows." And so then I'd get everything, go home, sight it in, and that would be it. I had the same bow from 2008 till 2018 when I bought it. I had a Matthews Adrenaline.
Yeah.
I had that bow forever. Before that, I had a Bear Element, which I sold to a kid younger than me so that he could get into archery. And then I went out and bought a Matthews Adrenaline because that was the pinnacle of archery at the time. I still have the bow. I won't ever sell that bow. It's a bow I'll never get rid of.
Still probably a great bow.
I still shoot it. I have it fully rigged out so I can take it out and shoot it whenever I want because it's still a great bow. And so then in 2018, I decided I was going to double down and buy a Matthews Traverse. So I bought that, and that's kind of the bow that I built for more West River hunting. Up till that point, I had really only done tree stand hunting. And for a lot of those years, I could get 3 tags. So I was filling two to 3 tags a year. And so I never really had any time or desire to go anywhere else because I was just so obsessed with whitetail hunting. I had 5 or 6 farmers around town that would let me come out and hunt, so I could go out before school, I could go out after school, I could go out on the weekends. And then pheasant hunting, we were big into pheasant hunting too. So we had 3 German short hair pointers that we were working with to be bird dogs. And then when we weren't pheasant hunting, we were duck hunting. And so my joke was my Saturdays are more busy than my any other days because I'd wake up in the morning to go duck hunting. I'd get done at 10 o'clock and go to the pheasant field and go pheasant hunting. And then at night, after we're done pheasant hunting, I'd sneak out and go in the deer stand. So um, that was kind of what I cut my teeth on. And then turkey hunting too. We did a lot of turkey hunting, gun hunting. We haven't.
Yeah.
My dad didn't really want to touch the archery stuff because he was like, these birds are hard enough to shoot with a shotgun. Let's just don't worry about archery. And so we kind of, that's kind of what I grew up on. And so when I finally, I got back from the Army, and then I met my wife and we got married and we bought a house and had a kid. And I decided, you know what, I want to go West River. I want to try antelope hunting. I had a buddy and he'd been out multiple times. And so he was like, yeah, let's try it. So that was the first year we went out. And I think the best way to learn spot and stalk antelope hunting is to do it. There's not really instructions. I couldn't advise someone how to start. The best way is to just, hey, there's a speed goat, good luck, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that first year, no arrows flew. The second year, no arrows flew. The third year, an arrow flew on a ridiculously long shot that I missed by millimeters because the buck he turned the opposite way, and he was supposed to keep walking, but instead he turned back and it just went right in front of him. And so it was heartbreaking, but I was stoked that I think it was a 70 or 80 yard shot, and I was stoked that I even got that close. I was just like, miss or not, I was just glad I had the opportunity. And then this last year was probably my most heartbreaking year of my life. I got within 40 yards of a speed goat, and
Jeez.
I ranged incorrectly. So my rangefinder popped up at 64 yards. And so I adjusted my sight and shot a foot over its back, and he's gone. And so when I rearranged it, I found out it was 39 yards. But that's kind of the evolution of me. And then at the same time that I started mule deer hunting is when I started doing my own bow work. So that's when I started ordering parts to the house, and then I started putting it together and kind of trying to do all the intricate stuff, rest timing, rest alignment, all that kind of stuff. And that's the same time I started building my own arrows. So then I was messing with arrow spine and FOC and 4-fletch, 3-fletch, and all that kind of fun stuff. And so I want to say after that year, I don't want to say fell out of love with bow hunting, but I fell more in love with archery as a whole. It was more of a year-long commitment rather than the bow season, which is 6 to 8 months, depending on what state you're in.
Right.
And so that's where I kind of fell in love with archery. And so I always posed the question, if you had to give up bow hunting or archery, what would you give up?
That's actually a really tough question I've never, ever heard before. I couldn't answer that right off the bat.
You can continue to bow hunt, but the only thing you can use your bow for is hunting. Or you can continue to shoot your bow, but you can only gun hunt. And I came to the conclusion that I would 100% archery.
Yeah,
I would hang up the bow for hunting, and I would just do archery, because to me, archery has turned into so much more of almost like a time with God. You know what I mean? Like I can go out and just shoot and just clear my mind and focus on the shot process and kind of have deeper thoughts and just kind of walk in prayer and all that kind of peace, Zen, whatever you want to call it. And I don't think I could give that up even in the winter time. I mean, the last 2 years I've plowed out my archery range so I could go out in the middle of winter and shoot outside. And so it's just, bow hunting is something that I don't think I could ever give up. But if I had to, I would to continue archery, because I found that the peace that I used to find bow hunting, I can now find at my archery range. And I don't have to be gone for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I can be gone for 15 minutes. I can go out and shoot 5 arrows quick and come back in and continue with whatever, the house needs to be done with. And so that's kind of the evolution of how it started. But I have yet to shoot an antelope. I have yet to shoot a mule deer. And, I missed an antelope this year, and I missed a pretty decent whitetail buck this year too. And I didn't even get to get out West River to go bow hunting, because the weekend that I had planned to go, my wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. So
that's a pretty good reason to miss.
I made a comment in the delivery room, and she did not take it as well of a joke as I thought she would.
Let's hear it.
I may have said, because the weekend I was going to go, the baby came the Friday before.
Mm-hmm.
And so she pushes this beautiful little girl out, and I said, wow, I guess this is a pretty good reason to not be archery hunting tomorrow. And mind you, this is maybe 10 minutes after she had just, had a baby. And I got the probably the scariest look I've ever gotten in my life, period. I've gotten some pretty scary looks.
You'll never do that again. Oh man. So mule deer and antelope and all those Western animals, like those are, for me, again, I got to plan those ahead of time. I got to put in for tags. I got to blah, blah, blah. But it's something that's really intrigued me. And I don't know if it's a matter of, you always look over the fence and everything looks better over that side. Because I know a lot of people do the same thing to come to Iowa to hunt our whitetails. But is hunting mule deer and antelope, is it similar between the two? Like, what does that process look like versus, hunting a whitetail? Obviously, you're going out, you're going to do your scouting, you're going to try to figure out their movement patterns, how, where they're feeding, what time, blah, blah, blah. On the flip side, or the other side of that with antelope, that seems like you basically show up in the middle of nowhere and just start looking in binoculars. Like, how do you hunt antelope and mule deer?
So it's kind of, it depends on how in depth you want to get. So I do not have the luxury of living close to those either. I'm actually a 6.5, 7 hour drive to antelope country. Luckily, I'm only about 2.5, 3 hours from mule deer country. But I actually have a really good friend that lives out West River who is a wildlife photographer. His name is Josh. His Instagram handle is SODAK Adventures. So if anybody wants to see some bomb photography, his pictures are actually going to be on the South Dakota Hunting Atlas and Hunting Handbook. He won that contest for South Dakota Game Fishing Park. So a super good dude. And I called him this last year and I said, hey man, I'm going to be out antelope hunting this weekend. I usually make it a day trip. That's how I do it. So I leave at midnight the night before and I drive all night just to get there by sunrise. And then we hunt all day. And then around 4 or 5 at night, we leave to come back and we get back at about midnight. So I said, hey, we'll pick you up at the gas station in Rapid at this time. And so he hopped on and he goes, hey man, I got my Onyx. You ready for me to drop links? And I went, absolutely, let's go.
Yeah, buddy.
And then from there, it's just, we drive some roads until we find a group that we think we can stalk on, and then we park, and then, you put your kind of spot and stalk plan together, and then you head out and hope that it works out. So in that respect, they're both the same. The biggest difference is the time of year. Antelope starts like the second to last or the last weekend in August. So it's hot. So if you have time to be out there, it's really good for water holes. You can sit a water hole and get a ton of action. And then mule deer, I would say mule deer is more similar to whitetail in the sense of, I feel like mule deer is a little more forgiving. Antelope are very skittish. If they see something they don't like, it's gone.
Yeah.
Whereas mule deer and whitetail are a little more like, I wonder what's that, and they might let you get to 50 yards instead of 70 or 100.
Right.
And so in that aspect they're the same. But honestly, I love late season mule deer hunting because you know where they're going. They're like whitetail. They're going to food. So if you can find routes on food, you just kind of hang out and watch them and wait for them to come down it. And I think it was last year I actually had the biggest deer I've seen in my entire life. I'm not going to tell you where it was because, well, actually it doesn't matter because the deer's probably dead because it was a huge deer. But it was out by Fort Pierre, which is about 2.5, 3.5 hours from where I live. And I was driving into the place that I was going to hike into and just kind of glass. And it was negative 10 degrees that day. No windshield, no nothing. It was just negative 10 degrees. And there's almost no snow on the ground. And so I pull into where I want to go. And I look over at this path and I see does. And I was like, oh, cool. This is awesome. I'm sweet. So I get out and then they're walking right over the road onto public land, right into private land where there's a bean field. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm just going to weasel my way up there and whatever else is coming down, I'll catch it. So I shut my door quietly and as I turn and look towards the bean field, I just see antlers. And I mean, mule deer are famous for just having massive
Yeah.
racks. And this dude, I mean, I can't even, oh, it was just huge. And he was thick and like dark brown. And they're just all looking at me like 60 yards away on public land. And I'm like, if I'd have been here 10 minutes ago, y'all would have been smoked.
Yeah.
And he didn't spook. He didn't do nothing. He just leisurely walked onto the private land and sat in the middle of a bean field. So I got a lot of good visuals of him. And
Yeah.
oh man, he was huge. But that's the tricky part is I only hunt public land for antelope and mule deer. And out west, there's a ton of public land. Rapid City, Deadwood area, there's so much public land. You could walk and you could walk all day and still be on public land.
Really?
Whereas Fort Pierre, I mean, there's so much out there. Pull up Onyx sometime and check it out. It is beautiful country. And Fort Pierre is about the same way. They have the National Grasslands, which is they have a season for it, but archery is it's like anything else. You can archery hunt it. And there's just massive amounts of public land out there too. The problem with that is that's also super good pheasant land, super good grouse land. And so it's not just bow hunters, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And so if you're not out there before pheasant season opens, it's kind of a crapshoot if you're even going to see anything. So
Right. Yeah, that's the one that I think that's the most intimidating part of it for me is like I would love to, get tags and head out there, but it's really an intimidating thing to take on by yourself because it's just I just don't know how to do it. And, I don't know. There's just so much. It's like anything else. I'm sure once you get out there, get doing it, it's not so bad. But one of these days, I'm going to get out that way and do that because I feel like there's just, like you're saying with bow hunting and archery, like it just keeps progressing. It never ends. There's always like a next goal, a next level, the next thing you're going to do, which is another great part about it. It never gets boring, So you have a pretty badass range at home for archery. And I've also noticed you're real big into 3D shooting. Your range at home is basically like just a mini 3D archery range. It's really cool. So what do you love so much about just being at the range and then doing 3D hunts? And how has doing 3D archery helped you when you actually get out in the field?
So I picked up 3D hunt or 3D shooting, not hunting. I made the same mistake you did. I picked up 3D shooting from Mountain Archery Fest. Actually, I made a trip out there 3 or 4 years ago, and it's very similar to a TAC event. I would say
Yep.
the better part of Mountain Archery Fest is that it's kind of smaller, so there's not lines, there's not a huge weight, and it's super family friendly. I went out there with my whole family, 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, and my wife, and we had a blast out there. But what I realized is the things Mountain Archery Fest and TAC, the reason people drive to that is because it's the 3D. The cool angles is fun. Walk in and kind of having those real world experiences is fun, but it's fun shooting 3D. And that anybody will tell you that. Any archer in the world will say, oh yeah, 3D is awesome. And so I don't know what the difference is about it. But the things that I noticed from pretty much only strictly shooting 3D targets or paper animal targets or anything like that is I feel like I know where to aim without having to actually think about it,
Right.
Because I'm not aiming for circles. I'm not aiming for 12 rings, 10 rings, anything like that. I'm aiming for kill shots.
Yep.
So in my mind, most of the 3D targets, your kill shots are going to be a little far forward out of the 10 ring, and I just go straight up the leg, right in the shoulder pocket, and I've had many successes with that. And so what that does for me is it kind of helps me. One, it helps me get in that mindset of looking through my peep, looking through my sight, and then putting my pin on an actual animal-like figure.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it helps with distance because your margin of error on a 3D target is much less than your margin of error on a block target or Reinhardt or a big bag target. And so it really makes you focus on your pin. It makes you focus on where you're putting it. And then it really makes you focus on follow through. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted the 3D range in the yard. But more so just because I love shooting 3D. I got plans to add many more targets to that range. I actually have plans to add 2 more ranges so I can have an actual walking range around my property and
That's
have like
cool.
a mini 3D shoot there. I'm working on buying more land behind my house because I live on a little acreage. I'm working on buying more land behind my house to make a larger walkthrough area. And it's just, I mean, it's part of the experience. That's what I love to do. I'm not much of a dot shooter. However, I am going to experiment with that a little bit this coming winter. But I'm a bow hunter. I'm not a
Yeah.
target archer. And so my thought has always been, I'm going to practice on what I play with. If I'm hunting, I'm going to practice on hunting animals. I'm not Levi Morgan. I can't just pick up a bow and shoot bullseyes at 100 yards. You know,
Right.
I gotta psych myself up.
Right. So how did your range start? Did you one day just say, "Hey, I want a 3D range"? You cleared it, you bought a bunch of targets, or has it just been kind of a progression?
So we moved out here 3 years ago, and I found a shooter 3D target on sale at Fleet Farm, and it was like something stupid, like $40 or $20. And so I was like, I'm gonna pick it up. And so prior to living on an acreage, I would go out to a full access archery range that the county provided, which was, it's like a 20 to 50 yarder, but you can get 80 yards out of it. And they just have these big block targets. And so I would go out with my 3D target and I would put it up there, and that's how I would practice. And so when I bought the property, it was just a no-brainer. This has an awesome 3D tunnel. This has an awesome range tunnel. And so I bought 2 more 3D targets that I found on sale for being blemished, and I threw them up. And then
Yeah, those
for
suck.
Christmas one year, my wife got me. Yeah, I know. I was like, oh man, they definitely don't stick arrows anymore. Bummer.
Right.
And so then one year for Christmas, my wife bought me 2 more, and then one year I think we had a big tax return back after having a kid, so I bought 2 more, and I slowly just kind of replace them as they need to be replaced, and I hope eventually to get to a place where I don't need to replace them as much because I have so many that I can just shoot
Right.
a different one and they'll be fine. But
Right.
so yeah, it just kind of happened organically. I mean, it's so much fun to go out and shoot 3D. Like, I have all my archery friends are like, hey, let's shoot at your place tonight. Perfect. Come on out. Let's
Yeah.
shoot at my place. I ain't got to go nowhere.
Yeah,
So,
that's perfect. Well, if you're listening to this point and you guys don't know what I'm talking about, pause the podcast right now, go on Instagram, look up at SODAK Horizon, and just look at his range. He's got it in a bunch of different videos, and we're going to talk a little bit about how he does his videos too, but check that range out so you can have a visual of what we're talking about, because he's got one of the better like at-home ranges that I've seen. And maybe if we're good enough friends after this, I'll stop out there and shoot it with you one day because it's awesome.
I was waiting until the end, but I was going to invite you out here antelope hunting and mule deer hunting. I mean, come
Hell
on out,
yeah.
man. It's a blast.
Count me in, dude. I would love to do that. So speaking about your range and content, you have been on YouTube and social media for quite a while now. And now that you guys are back from looking at his page, you guys know what I'm going to be talking about. You put together some really cool videos. I mean, there's a lot of guys who, they kind of come from a photography, videography background. They know all the ins and outs and all the like technical things. My understanding, you did not come from that, correct?
I came from the last video camera I had was one of those big over the shoulder ones that my
Yeah.
dad got me, and I was gonna hunt with it, but I ended up not being able to hunt with it because the first time I turned it on, it fired up so loudly it scared the deer away.
Oh, really?
So I couldn't hunt with it.
I was going to say, is it one of those, like, was it a literal video tape camera?
So it was I don't even know what you call it. It was in between the videotape, but the tape was about this big.
Yep. Yeah,
And so I had to shove it in there and click it, and then you had to hit it, and it goes, and it kind of stays there the whole time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Dad, I can't hunt with this. Like, it's going to scare everything away, and that loud humming is going to drive me insane. And so yeah, I started with that, and then I just kind of said, you know what, I'm going to focus on hunting. I'm going to focus on trying to be a better bow hunter. And so that's what I did until 2018 when me and a buddy were like, hey, let's try to make a run of this. Let's do this. We got to work on filming. So then it started with my phone. it started that way. And then I ended up finding a pretty good deal on a small little camera, and I bought that because it was super point and click with some video stuff. And I was like, perfect, this will be exactly what I need. So I filmed with that for most of everything you see is just on that thing. And it wasn't until this last summer that I upgraded because my ideas for what I wanted to do outgrew the equipment I had. And that's when I generally know it's time to upgrade. And so after just constantly not I did a lot of filming with my phone too. I mean, that's a super good way to start. Anybody listening who wants to start filming your hunts, don't go out and buy some $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 camera. Use your phone. Find something cheap that you can use, because you'd be amazed at how good of footage you can get and how much you can get away with just on your phone until you start kind of outgrowing your own phone. And that's where I was at. I outgrew the equipment and I got a good deal. So I was like, hey, this is meant to be. So after that, I started playing around with more shot angles on the range. And that's really where most of those videos came from, was, all right, let's see if I could set a camera up like this in a tree stand, would this shot look good? If I could put a camera up like this, would this shot look good? And I found that I was falling so much in love with the shots that I was getting that I just was like, I'm just going to do this. This is awesome. So it was a pretty slow progression. And I got everything I bought on deal from a buddy of mine from Parsky and Dubs Marketing. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, look up Parsky and Dubs. Those are two of my high school friends that we've known each other for a super long time, and they're in the marketing space. So a little shameless plug, if you guys are looking for business tips or marketing, go check out Parsky and Dubs at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the stuff. They're really good dudes, and they have a lot of good advice for that too. And they're also my photography and videography mentor. So anytime I have a question, anytime I have concerns, I go, hey man, what do you think of this? I still send them my pictures and my videos that I take, because hey, do you think this looks good? What would make it look better? What should I do? What angle? And so it's super fun having a mentor like that to be able to go back to and learn with. But
yeah, for sure.
The videography and camera stuff was just, that's what it was. It was 2 or 3 nights of my buddy Levi coming over and being like, yeah, this is how you use this camera. This is different settings. This is the angles you can use, blah, 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 blah. And just running away with it and experimenting from there. So it was super organic. And now I kind of like videography and photography just as much as I like shooting my bow. Yep. I still have times where I go out and just shoot my bow, and I don't worry about content or video or anything like that. I just go and enjoy shooting my bow. But I definitely, the feeling of watching that shot that you really wanted, and you're just like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, is just, it's one of those feelings.
Yeah, it's almost like hunting in a different way. I mean, I understand what you mean by like kind of falling in love with videography and photography just as much. It was through opportunities presented by bow hunting, by archery, and then you dive into the videography and photography side of it. And I don't know if that's I don't know if everybody has that same thing, but maybe it's just like someone who wants to do content creation, but they mesh together very well. And it's a good way to, you don't have to be out filming other people. You don't have to come up with these crazy scenarios and scenes in movies. You can go do something you love to do. You're already going to be doing it. And then, I love the moments where, you're out there and you just see something that's just awesome. God paints an awesome picture. You get to see it, and then you get to share it with other people, and you get to mess around with how you capture it to show it to other people. And it's a very rewarding hobby, or whatever you want to call it. So with that, we had talked a little bit about the drone footage. I had a listener of the show, Rockin' the Mix. He actually reached out to me, and he said, I asked them a question on one of the podcasts. Who do you guys want on the show? And he's like, you need to talk to the SODAK Horizon guy, because he's got kick-ass content. I love everything he does. And he said, ask him about the drone footage, because it's just, like we were talking about earlier off camera, it adds such a cool element to that. How do you find if it was me, everything I'd film would be on the drone. How do you how do you decide what to cut in and what to cut out? Because it all looks so good, and I assume that it's just a really fun. It just seems like a really fun way to capture your video.
It is, and it's a different. It's just like videography and photography. It's just another skill you kind of have to learn on. And I've already bought 3 or 4 replacement parts for the drone. I've wrecked it 5 times, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's I have so much drone footage that will never see the light of day just because it's not exactly what I wanted, because I have a very specific picture in my head when I pull that drone out, because that is a whole nother level of work to go through to get the camera set up and then pull the drone out and get it flying everything. And then, you know, there's certain interferences that I get at my house, so I can only fly it at certain portions of the property. And so it'd be so much fun if you could have a third or a second person to film. Self-filming with a drone is much more work, because you have to be careful of the trees. If you want to get those really tight angles, you got to be careful of the trees that are coming around, and you got to be careful of the poles, and then you got to, you know, you constantly have to watch it. And so a lot of those videos you see my son, because he's the one that hits record for me.
Gotcha.
So he knows the little red button is record, and so I'll say, okay, now when I say go, hit record, and so I'll get my bow and everything ready, and then I'll hit the pivot that I want the drone to do, and I'll say, okay, hit record. And as I'm drawing, he hits record, and so then I can get the full view and then shoot quick, and then he'll hit unrecord, and then I can stop the pivot right away, and then we go and reset it somewhere else and do that. And so it's a whole nother level just flying a drone and then trying to have the drone unmanned record this cool, you know, scenic shot around as you're trying to shoot. And so it's definitely I have some friends that are interested in learning it, so if I can get them, you know, comfortable enough that they're not going to break it, there's going to be much more drone footage. But, you know, in the wintertime it's hard to do. When it's too windy, it's hard to do, which South Dakota is known for wind. So like every day is minimum of like 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. So it's like, if it's too windy, you can't fly it. If it's raining or snowing or too cold, there's just a whole nother level to it. But it is, I had much bigger plans for the drone this year than I got to utilize it for. And so I have doubled up on the plans that I want for next year. And so I'm hoping, cross my fingers, I'm going to pull it out with TAC when I go out to Mountain Archery Fest this summer. We're going out to Beaver Creek, Utah, or Eagle Point in Beaver, Utah. And so me and a couple buddies and the whole family are going out there. So I'm going to be bringing that out, hoping to get some good shots with it. And I got a couple different cameras now, so I'm going to be using different angles now. And so it's really just, it's a lot of footage. I have 2 terabytes on my desk right now, completely full just of my footage.
Yeah.
And most of that footage is not used because I have to film so much to get that tiny little shot that I want. And I clip 3 seconds off of a 45-minute clip.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it's fun, but like, I love that you said that. It's just like hunting. You're hunting just for film, for footage, for a picture, for something else. And that's a very good way to describe that. I'm probably gonna steal that from you from now on.
Yeah, it's all yours, man. Yeah, that's one thing, guys. If you want to get into content creation, which, you know, it seems like to some degree everybody is, even if you're not trying to like make a thing out of it, it's just kind of part of what we do these days. People just film everything, and just be aware that, a lot of those times when you see that 9-second reel where you think like, man, they just captured that was awesome. That probably took 2 hours to get that shot. You know, you filled up 45 gigs on your phone trying to get it, and then you had to go back and delete 600 videos just for that 9 seconds. It's like,
a little behind the scenes look. So I have an app on my phone that I can airdrop everything from the camera to my phone. And so what I do is I record a lot in slow-mo, which takes up immensely more space.
Yes.
And so after like 4 or 5 shots, I want to make sure that I'm on the right track, so I'll connect and I'll download it. And what I have to do is I have to go and I have to cut out, because each clip is about 5.5 minutes long, because it doubles or triples or quadruples the time depending on how slow you're going and how much time you have. And so I have to go in and I have to crop on my phone just the shot that I want. So
Yeah.
I have to go through 5 minutes of slow-mo to crop this 5 to 10 second window, and then go through the rest of it and do that, and then delete the big window. So I save all
Yeah.
that memory on my phone, and then I just have 15 little 10 to 15 second bits that I can then pick from it and make reels with, or make shorts with, or whatever the case is. So it's I'm not just pulling my phone out and trying to get cool shots. I am trying to go for the photography and videography side of it, and in doing so, I just decide if I'm going to film something, I'm going to go all out, and I'm going to bring all my equipment out, and I'm going to have fun with it, because that's what I do this for. I do it for fun, and that's fun to me.
You had mentioned you bring your boy out with you to the range. I assume he's probably still a little small to be actually out hunting yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what kind of things have you done that have really gotten him interested to come out there with you, and so he's actually enjoying it? Have you gotten him into, like, do you have a little bow for him? Does he shoot it all out there yet?
Yeah, so I have two sons. I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then I have a newborn that was born last month. So I have two boys, and then this last one was a girl. So both my boys have their own bow. Both my boys have their own arrow set up, and it's just them little bear cub bows, the green ones
Yep.
with the little wheels on top. And so they both have their own, and they have their own set of arrows. And I guess they've had a lot of little like Nerf gun bows that they can bring into the house and shoot in the
Yeah.
wintertime. But a lot of it is, honestly, guys, I talk about bow hunting to my boys all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking like, oh yeah, and this was fun. No, I'm talking like bedtime stories are bow hunting stories. And so now my oldest son, his bedtime stories are bow hunting stories. So when he tells his little brother and sister a story, it's bedtime stories. It's okay, the Klusmann family pulls up into the ground blind and we're hunting turkeys, and then all of a sudden we hear blah, 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 blah. Oh, so Charlotte gets her bow ready, and she smoked the turkey, good job. Oh, and then we hear another, and we do that for the whole family until everyone has a turkey, and then we go deer, and then we go antelope, and then we go mule deer. And then the other portion of that is I let them shoot all my stuff that they can. So I got like 5 or 6 different releases that my boy likes to play with. He can play with it. I got, he shoots my arrows sometimes. He shoots his arrows sometimes. I have a couple bigger bows that fit them that they can shoot. And so my biggest thing is, like, I want them to feel like they can use any of my stuff they want, because that's what's going to keep them into it. And that's kind of the bigger goal for me. Is it's super cool that I have this footage and pictures. I have pictures all around here of me and my boys working on the bows or out on the range or doing stuff. But the bigger portion for me is instilling it as a passion. Like, I want them to be as passionate about it as I am. And that comes from talking about it. That comes from, when I shoot a deer, when I shoot an animal, guess who piles everybody in the car and brings them to wherever I need to be? Or I bring everything home. And I remember Reed was 1.5 years old the first deer he saw me gut.
Nice.
My wife brought him out, and he was all bundled up because it was in the middle of winter. And he goes, "Daddy, what is that?" And I said, "Yeah, I shot a deer. I'm going to gut it now. Do you want to watch?" "Yeah." And he watched me gut the whole deer, and he asked questions, and I explained, and he loved it. And there was nothing forced. He asked if he could come out. He wanted to see what happened. And so it's just kind of having that environment that they can ask questions on. I got a couple animal mounts up here that they ask questions about. I have archery stuff all in my office that they can come and ask questions about. And so it's really just not being afraid to have to replace something because it's lost or broke or I got one release that is Reed's release. He does not like me to use it. He does not want me to touch it. Even if he doesn't shoot it all the time, he just wants to have it. Yeah. And so and he wanted me to tie a D-loop on his bow. Absolutely, let's tie a D-loop on your bow.
That's so cool.
And so it's really at the younger age of like 2, is whatever you want. Yeah, you want to go shoot right now? Absolutely, come on out. You don't? Okay, no big deal. Don't. Yeah. It's not forcing, but I don't know. I also think I'm just super lucky because both my boys are obsessed with the range, and it's like I have a picture from this last summer. I was at work, and my wife texted me and said, "Hey, you should come home right now." And I was like, "I'm at work. Like, I can't just come home." And she sends me a picture. She was in the house with the little brother, and his older brother Reed got out, got his bow down, got his arrows out, and was out shooting on the range by himself.
That's awesome.
At 8 a.m. He was like, yeah, I just wanted to shoot. But that also comes with, guess how much safety talk we have in our family?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, safety is a huge thing. I've had a lot of hate when people see me shooting with my boys or having them run the drone about, that's not safe. That's an accident waiting to happen. And all I say to that is, well, no, it's not. Because ask my son right now. He has a toy bow down here. And when we're shooting, he goes, Dad, wait till everyone's up from downrange. You can't shoot with anybody downrange. Dad, don't point that bow at anybody. You're not supposed to point bows at anybody. You have to keep them pointed downrange. And he is now scolding his little brother when he does stuff like that with these toy bows. And so it's like he knows the safety rules. He knows where you have to stand. He shows people when they come out to shoot at the range. He goes, now hold on, guys. Not everyone's downrange yet. Everybody get behind me. Everyone do this. Yeah. And so it's almost like it's like you have to. It has to be a whole environment thing. It can't just be. You can't be afraid to take your kid out, is what I should say. When I lived in town, there was a range that I could bring him to. He was in a stroller, but I would bring him in a stroller, and then I would walk him down there and pull arrows, and then walk back and then shoot. And I mean, it's just you have to almost breathe it into them so they just love it as much as you do. And I think a lot of it has to do with, they want to spend time with Dad. I'm at work all day, so when I come home and want to go on the range, they go, yeah, let's go out together. We can play outside. But I don't ever force them to do anything. I don't make them shoot. The only thing I make them do is pick up after themselves. If you're going to bring your bow and your arrows out, you're going to put them away. I don't care if you do it now. I don't care if we come back out in a little bit, you do it. You're going to pick up after yourself. Everything else is, you want to shoot the hog? You want to shoot the elk? What do you want to shoot? Let's go shoot them all. We'll bring the turkey up here. I mean, it's just letting them have as much fun as they possibly can, because he asked me right now, Dad, can we go in the garage and shoot? And I have to say, no, buddy. Like, I don't want you breaking all the stuff out there. Right. So it's definitely going to bite me in the butt, I think, though, when I'm buying 3 new bows and arrows all the time. But it's a price that I'm willing to pay if I have to.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm really looking for. My son, I have a he's going to be 4 here in 2 months, and then a 1-year-old. And I'm just going to call him 4-year-old. Yeah, he loves talking. Like, he saw me getting my turkey gear out because, it's deer season ends, and all of a sudden in my brain, it's turkey. It flips. I love deer hunting, but the minute it's like deer's over, I'm over it. I'm on to the next one. But yeah, he sees that out and he's like, Dad, are we going to go turkey hunting right now? And like, we go out. Oh yeah. We go out.
I pulled him out as soon as the season was over.
Heck yeah. Your family annoyed yet?
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, we'll go. We have up the road, we have like we're in the city, but we have like, it's really weird. It's like farmland that's just literally in the middle of the city. It's like this old lady who is just held out, and she's not going to sell the land, which, bless her, I love that. But there's woods there too. And like, so we'll go walk through there and, we'll fake hunt. He thinks we're really hunting, but we'll go do that. And, last year I was like, all right, we're going to go find turkeys. And he walks through and he made up, I can't even remember what it is now. I'd have to look back, but he was like, doo 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 doo. And he made this weird sequence that he kept repeating. And that was how he called turkeys. And, he'd just, Dad, there's one right there. Do you see it? And it's, there's nothing there, but, it's just yeah, let's sneak up on it. And, it's so fun to see him enjoy things that I'm also really, I really enjoy. And I think you're right. You just got to kind of let it be unrestricted. Let them have as much fun with it. A lot of times you see guys that maybe their kid does the weird noises and says, that's my turkey call. And they're like, that's not a turkey call. This, just let them have fun with it. And, it's just so much. I both look forward to and don't look forward to when he's old enough to go hunting with me, because at that point I'm not hunting anymore. He's hunting. And, for a long time, until he gets to that age where he can go out on his own, which is a long time, it's going to be, it's It's going to be bittersweet because I'm going to have to kind of hang up a lot of the time that I would spend in the woods. But, I think you ask any dad anywhere, seeing your child succeed at something trumps you succeeding at something by a million every time. So I am looking forward to that. So to close it out, what are your turkey plans for this summer while we're talking about turkeys? I can't let you leave without talking a little bit of turkey.
So I am probably the worst turkey hunter just in general. Like the OKest Hunter guys, if you haven't checked out the OKest Hunter, do it. They're awesome dudes. I love them.
Yes.
I often say that I should change the name of SODAK Horizon to the worst hunter in America because I rarely do scouting. I don't do anything hunting outside of the season because I need to save as much PTO, and I say PTO as in being away from the 3 kids and the wife for during this season.
Right.
That I like scouting. I don't scout. I have friends and that are single or don't have kids, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna go check out turkeys." I'm like, "Let me know where they're at. I'll pay for gas. We'll get out there, and it'll be great." Right. And I'm a horrible turkey caller. I posted a video because I found this new company, Cluck, and I am absolutely garbage at a mouth call. And the only reason I wanted to check these guys out is because they're the latex they use, they have it tightened to different strengths. So you can order a high tight, medium tight, low tight, and it gives you a different frequency. And I'm still playing with them. I'm trying to get better, but I'm garbage at calling. And so I always have like a cherry bomb or a slate call, and I love those because I'm not bad at those. No big deal, and you're like good to go. And so I have a little piece of property that I have permission to hunt on about an hour and a half away from here that I will get out with a buddy of mine. Last year, I think I got out 4 times, and we should have had it done opening morning, which should be the name of my actual page is should have had it done because I should have had an antelope. I should have had a whitetail. I should have had a turkey. I should have had all my tags filled, and yet I'm sitting here with 5 tags going, I didn't get anything this year. Yeah. So that's kind of my plan for turkey hunting. I love hearing turkeys. That is like that was the first real experience I had that wasn't whitetail hunting, was turkey hunting. Me and my dad and 2 of his friends used to take a trip out to the Black Hills every year. And I think that started in like 4th or 5th grade and went until I graduated high school. And that entire time we went out, I think I shot 3 turkeys, and my dad never shot a bird. And so we just kind of did it because it was fun to go out. And I just slowly kept practicing my calling. And the last year we went out, it was my senior year of high school. And it was just me and my dad this time. We were chasing a snowstorm. It was the only weekend we could get out because I graduate and prom and all these other things. And so me and my dad just Hail Mary go out in the middle of the week. He calls me into school on a Tuesday and says, "Hey, Ben's not coming into school the rest of the week. I don't care what the excuse is. See you later." And we booked it. I got home from school and we left. And so we get out there. Dad of the year. That's what I said. I said, "You're the best dad in the world." And so we get out there, and the first morning we're out there, we didn't beat the snowstorm. It's snowing. So we're out there. We have no rain gear. We have no cold weather gear. It's in the middle of April, and it's 15 degrees and sleeting rain and snow. And so we're sitting there just plain miserable. We go down to the truck. We get a meal. We come back up. And on the way up, we bust this entire flock of turkeys. I pick out one gobbler. Boom, drop him. I'm so excited because this is the biggest gobbler I've shot. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And behind me, there's an entire flock of toms and jakes and hens running out, and my dad's gun jams. So he's sitting there just like, we should have filled out by now. And so I run out, grab my tom, and I'm like, oh, this is sweet. We go back. We call it a day. We're freezing cold. It's everything's wet. We get back to the hotel. The next morning we go out, and we go to the same spot. Snowing, cold, it's miserable. So we're like, you know what? Let's just pack it in. Let's go get warm. Our clothes aren't even fully dried out. So we stand up, and I'm looking out on this hill, And I just see these little black dots roaming around, and I go, those are turkeys. Dad, let's make a stalk on these. Let's go. So we make a 500, 600 yard stalk, belly crawling through snow to this ridge that we think they're at. And I set him up, and this was, if any hunt I've ever had in my life could have been recorded, this would have been the one. Because we set up just like you do on the hunting channel, right? He sets up in front, I set up behind, we have the decoy on the hill, I'm calling in the background. We start calling, and a coyote runs into the call 25 yards next to us. And I'm like, that's it, turkey hunting's over, no big deal, we're done. And all of a sudden, these birds start chipping off to us. We got 3 of them fired up, and we're like, okay, we're still in it. So I called these turkeys all the way from the top of the hill, 500 yards back down, right up to where the decoy was. Bird comes up, Dad shoots him, rolls him, and we are freaking out. We jump up, we run up. The bird also jumps up and runs.
Oh, no.
And so we're both like, shoot the bird! So we go into pheasant mode with 3.5-inch shells. We're just blowing our shoulders out. I shoot twice. My gun jams. I can't get the round out. Dad shoots once, gun jams, unjams it one more time, drops the bird. Last shell, bird drops.
Oh.
We're stoked. So then he goes and tries to jump over this creek, ends up getting waist deep in water, gets the bird out, and that's when we decided, you know what, we're done. Let's just head home. We both got a turkey. Everything is wet to the bone. And so that was really that was like the turkey hunting that I grew up with. So this whole archery turkey hunting thing is a whole different ball game. And there's the last 5 years I should have had 5 toms. Every single year, it never fails. I get into where I want to be. I think this is a good spot. I do some calling. I get some responses. The responses die down, and I go, I'm just going to go see if I can find them. I get up, and then I see red and blue heads running away.
Yeah.
And I go, if I would have just been patient, I'd have been fine. And so that has been the story of my turkey hunting life. Every time I think it dies, I say, okay, let's go find them. Because I'm used to like spot and stalk. I want to get out and go get them.
Right.
And then I see them running away because they saw me get out of the blind or stand up or whatever happens at the time. So
yeah, that's the one of the best pieces of turkey. It's more specific to turkey than anything else I've hunted, but the best piece of advice I ever got was when you get the inclination that it's time to get up and move, sit your ass down for 10 more minutes. Because that 10-minute window
20.
is generally, you could even go 20. Yeah. That window, it gets you almost every time. If you get up on that first, like, let's go chase them down. Let's go whatever before they get too far off. They're coming, man. If they gobbled at you, if they hit back, they're coming. And if you, I wonder, is antelope similar to turkey then? Because I mean, it seems like, with turkey, they're 80, 100 yards off, and you just wiggle your nose, and they're like, oh, there he is, I'm gone. Like, just sit still.
I don't think I should compare any species to another because I suck at hunting all of them. But I will say, the out of all the animals that I've hunted, antelope and mule deer, all the animals have given me huge headaches. I don't have one that's done it more.
Yeah.
But turkeys are the thing that I don't think I could compare to anything, because when you hear that gobble sound off, it just gets your heart pumping.
Oh yeah.
And then the last gobble you hear sinks your heart more than anything. And then when you see the turkey, it's like you don't like it's buck fever times 12, because in your head, it's gone. It's long gone. Like this last year we were out, and me and my buddy, first year hunting, this was his first hunting experience, was turkey hunting. And so we're out doing our thing, and we have them sounding off everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And so it was about 10:30, and we're like, nothing's coming in. Let's go pack up and let's see if we can maybe go catch some coming in. And we get the blind collapsed down. Our bows are over here. We get everything packed up. When we look up, and coming down the road are 3 huge toms, about 60, 70 yards away. And they're staring right at us. And I look at them and I go, should have waited 10 minutes, man.
Yeah.
That's the story of my life. Opening morning, 3 huge toms, and they didn't make a peep. They came from a direction that no turkey sounded off in. There was not an inclination that they were coming our way, and they just showed up. And so that's the story of my life, man. Every time I need to be more patient, and yet every time I tell myself that, I go, nah, not this time. It's dead this time.
Right. Yeah.
So this year I told my buddy, I said, you're not letting me get out of the blind until I say it's been 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I'm not doing this again.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, that's it. It gets you every time. It does. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with me. I think we covered a lot of real fun topics, good topics, had great conversation. Let everybody know where they can find you online on Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and recently on TikTok, and the @ is the same, SODAK Horizon, on all those platforms. And I also just want to thank you for having me on here. I'm humbled. I love talking with other hunters, and if it happens to be on a podcast, I mean that's cool too. But I'm humbled and grateful that you invited me on here, and I love talking with you. And I'm dead serious, man. If you want to get up here and do antelope and mule deer, I can't promise that I will be there, but I can link you up with people that will just take it away for you, man. It's an awesome experience, and everyone should try it at least once.
Well, I'm going to keep in touch with you, and yeah, let's definitely get that going, because like I said, that's my biggest fear is I don't know what I'm doing. So if you got people who know what they're doing and they're willing to hook me up or go out with you, let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, guys.
Let's plan it.
Well, hey, make sure you are following him again over at SODAK Horizon, and make sure you're following us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I don't really do anything on Twitter. It gets all the scraps from Facebook, which gets the scraps from Instagram, but check us out at Antler&FeatherCo on all of those. If you guys found value in the show, if you feel like you learned something new, if you got something you can put into your new hunting arsenal and take out into the woods with you, then that is awesome. Please like, subscribe, share, rate, and review the show. When you guys do that, it allows me to keep bringing great guests on the show, which ultimately makes you more deadly in the woods. Thank you guys. I appreciate every single one of you for spending this time with me, and we will catch up with you guys next week. This is the Antler&FeatherCo podcast. You are listening to the Antler&FeatherCo podcast.